Rob Law had always been fascinated by design. As a child, he would take apart household items just to see how they worked, often frustrating his parents with his endless curiosity. By the time he reached university, he knew his future lay in product design. He wasn't just interested in creating things. He wanted to build something that could change people's lives. It was during a trip to the airport that the idea first struck him. As he watched exhausted parents struggling with their restless children, he noticed a common theme. Kids were either dragging their feet, clinging to their parents' legs, or whining about being tired. It was a familiar scene, and it sparked something in him. What if there was a suitcase designed for children, something they could sit on, ride, and have fun with while traveling, he thought. Excited, he rushed home and began sketching ideas. His concept was simple, yet revolutionary. A lightweight, durable suitcase that doubled as a ride-on toy. It would make travel fun for kids and easier for parents. He could already imagine children zooming through airports with excitement. But excitement alone wasn't enough. Rob knew he needed more than just an idea. He needed a plan. Over the next few months, he poured his energy into designing the first prototype. Using whatever materials he could find, he built a rough but functional model. He tested it rigorously, ensuring it was strong enough to support a child's weight while remaining compact enough to function as proper luggage. Yet, no matter how well he designed it, there was a lingering doubt in his mind. Would anyone take him seriously? Could he convince investors that a children's suitcase could be more than just a gimmick? As he stared at his prototype, determination settled over him. He had no idea how tough the road ahead would be, but one thing was certain. He believed in his idea, and he was willing to fight for it. Rob Law's excitement over his idea was infectious, at least to himself. He could already picture Trunki transforming family travel forever. However, reality hit hard when he began seeking funding. His first stop was a series of meetings with potential investors. Armed with his prototype and a well-rehearsed pitch, he stepped into boardrooms filled with skeptical faces. A suitcase that kids can ride? Interesting. But is there really a market for this? One investor asked, leaning back in his chair. It seems like a toy, not real luggage, another remarked dismissively. No matter how passionately Rob explained that Trunki was both a functional suitcase and a travel companion for children, the feedback remained the same: doubtful, unconvinced, and outright rejecting. The rejections stung, but they didn't deter him. He had one last shot, a chance to pitch on the British television show Dragon's Den. The show was known for its harsh, no-nonsense investors who could make or break an entrepreneur's dream in mere minutes. If he could win over the dragons, Trunki could finally take off. When the day of filming arrived, Rob walked onto the set with his prototype, his heart hammering in his chest. The bright studio lights bore down on him as he faced the panel of powerful investors. He took a deep breath and launched into his pitch. He spoke about the struggles parents faced while traveling with children, the innovative design of Trunki, and the enormous market potential. He had done everything right, or so he thought. Then disaster struck. As one of the dragons, Theopophytus, examined the Trunki prototype, he pulled the strap a little too hard. In an instant, the strap snapped off. A wave of silence swept over the room. The dragons exchanged glances, and then, one by one, they tore into him. If it breaks that easily, it's not a product worth investing in? Parents won't buy something that isn't durable. This is a disaster waiting to happen. I'm sorry, but this is not a business I can see succeeding. Rejection again, and this time it was on national television. Rob walked out of the studio with his prototype in hand, his dream seemingly shattered. Millions of people would watch his failure. Investors would see his humiliation. For the first time, doubt began to creep into his mind. Had they been right all along? Was Trunki just a foolish idea? But as he sat in silence, staring at his broken prototype, another thought emerged. This isn't the end. I know this idea works. I just have to prove it. Rob clenched his fists. He wasn't going to let this be his final chapter. The days following Rob Law's humiliating Dragon's Den rejection were some of the toughest of his life. Everywhere he turned, it seemed like people were talking about the episode. The show had aired to millions of viewers, and the clip of his Trunki prototype breaking had become the perfect example of a failed pitch. Newspapers, business blogs, and online forums had a field day with it. Some called it one of the most disastrous pitches in the show's history. Others mocked the very concept of a ride-on suitcase, dismissing it as a toy pretending to be luggage. But amidst the criticism, something unexpected happened. Parents started reaching out. Emails, messages, and calls trickled in. Parents who had watched the episode weren't laughing. Instead, they saw potential in Trunki. "My kids would love something like this," one message read. "Ignore those investors. I'd buy one in a heartbeat," another parent wrote. Despite the rejection, there was demand. Parents wanted Trunki. That was all Rob needed to hear. Determined to prove the dragons wrong, he returned to his workshop. He analyzed every flaw, re-engineered the weak parts, and tested new materials. The strap issue? Fixed. The durability concerns? He reinforced the design. More importantly, he made a decision. He would do this alone. If no investors believed in his vision, he would build the company himself. With every penny he had left, Rob set up his own manufacturing and distribution process. He launched Trunki independently, selling directly to parents online and through small toy stores. It was a gamble. He was risking everything. Then the first batch sold out, and then another. Trunki was taken off. But Rob was about to face an even bigger challenge, one that could either solidify Trunki's success or destroy his company forever. With the first batch of Trunki suitcases selling out, Rob Law felt a surge of validation. Parents loved the product. Kids adored it. The very thing that the investors mocked was proving them wrong. But success didn't come without its own set of challenges. As demand for Trunki skyrocketed, Rob realized he had another problem: scaling up production. Manufacturing was slow. His small team could barely keep up with the rising orders. Some retailers were interested in stocking Trunki, but they wanted large quantities, and he didn't have the resources to produce them quickly. To make matters worse, a manufacturing disaster struck. A factory he had partnered with to mass-produce Trunki sent him a shipment of defective suitcases. The plastic was weak, the wheels were loose, and the straps weren't attached properly. If he shipped them, they would break, just like the one on Dragon's Den. The logical business decision would have been to send them out anyway, cut his losses, and move on. But Rob refused. "If I let a bad product go out into the world, I'll be proving the dragons right," he told himself. Instead of shipping the faulty batch, he scrapped thousands of suitcases, eating the financial loss himself. It was a painful decision, but it saved Trunky's reputation. Just as he was trying to recover from that setback, another blow hit. A competitor copied Trunki. A rival company released a similar-looking ride-on suitcase backed by a bigger manufacturer and a bigger budget. Rob was furious. His idea, his years of hard work, was being stolen right in front of him. He had two options: fight or fold. Instead of backing down, he took the fight to court. A legal battle began over who truly owned the idea. For months, Trunki's future hung in the balance. If he lost, his company could be wiped out. If he won, it would cement Trunki as the original ride-on suitcase brand. The case dragged on. Lawyers battled. The stress was unbearable. Would he win? Or had he fought this hard just to lose everything? Rob Law sat in the courtroom, his hands clenched into fists under the table. Years of blood, sweat, and relentless determination had led to this moment. His company, Trunki, was under threat. Across from him sat the representatives of the rival company that had copied his design. They had deep pockets, top-tier lawyers, and a clear agenda to push Trunki out of the market and claim the ride-on suitcase idea as their own. Rob knew that if he lost this battle, it wouldn't just be about money. It would be a public message that a small entrepreneur's idea could be stolen by a corporate giant without consequence. His legal team presented the case with clear evidence. Trunki was the original ride-on suitcase, with patents and designs proving it had been developed first. The opposition, however, argued that anyone could have come up with the idea. The court deliberated. The media buzzed. The future of Trunki hung in the air. Then the verdict came. Rob won. The judge ruled that Trunki's design was unique and legally protected. The rival company had to pull their knockoff products from the market. Relief flooded through him. He had fought for his dream, and he had won. But there was no time to celebrate. The court battle had drained his finances. He had spent everything to protect his idea. Now he had to make sure Trunki didn't just survive, it had to thrive. What happened next would determine whether his victory meant something, or if Trunki would still fade into obscurity. Winning the court battle was a major victory, but Rob Law knew the fight wasn't over. Trunki had survived, but now it had to grow, and fast. The lawsuit had drained his resources, and competitors were still lurking. If he didn't capitalize on his momentum, Trunki could become just another forgotten startup. Determined, Rob rebranded and expanded. He focused on marketing Trunki as more than just a suitcase. It was an experience, a childhood memory in the making. He partnered with travel influencers, parenting blogs, and major retailers, ensuring that families everywhere knew about Trunki. Slowly but surely, sales skyrocketed. Parents loved how Trunki turned stressful airport trips into a fun adventure for kids. Airports around the world became filled with little children happily riding their colorful suitcases, turning dull layovers into playful moments. By the end of the decade, Trunki had sold millions of units worldwide. The best part? The very same investors who had laughed at his idea on Dragon's Den were now seeing Trunki in airports, train stations, and holiday resorts across the world. Then, in 2023, Rob Law made the ultimate entrepreneurial move. After years of building Trunki into a global brand, he sold the company for over £12 million. The journey had been brutal: rejection, humiliation, financial disasters, and legal battles. But he had done it. The world had once laughed at Trunki. Investors had mocked his vision, and yet he had proven them all wrong. As Rob reflected on his journey, he knew one thing for certain. Dreams don't die because others reject them. They die only when you stop believing in them. The end.